You know how to use the jQuery function to run code once a page is loaded. Now the example we looked at was using the getElementById method of the document object to go and find an input text field and set its value. We're going to do a lot of things in jQuery that involve finding elements on a web page, and so jQuery's got a way of accessing elements on the page without having to use the getElementById function. What we'll do is create some code that's an equivalent of the 2 lines of code we already have. Now what we're going to do here is create a text field variable, and then we're going to use the jQuery function again. Now you've seen that we've been able to use the jQuery function and pass it a piece of code, and what that means is once the page has loaded all of its HTML, then run this piece of code. But as well as passing functions, you can also pass strings, and these strings represent what are called CSS selectors. Now, a CSS selector is just an expression that allows you to specify which element or elements on a page you're interested in. Now in this case we're interested in an element with an ID of start time, and in CSS selector syntax an ID is represented by a hash symbol. So if we're interested in the input text field with the ID of start time, we need to use the selector hash start time. What this returns is not quite the element itself. It returns a jQuery equivalent of that element. We can use it in the same kind of way and it does the same sorts of things, but it's an improved version of the element on the web page, and one that's been given a lot of extra functions by jQuery. So now if we want to set the value of the start time text field, we can't quite do it how we did before by setting the .value attribute. What we have to do is call a .val method on the text field object. So we'll set the value in this way to the string now, and when we refresh on the web page we can see that value gets into the text field. We've got some code that's equivalent, but because it's been written in jQuery we're able to compress things a little bit more. There's no need for us to actually store that field inside a variable. So I can go back and get rid of the text field variable itself, and we end up with this much shorter expression that just says go and find me an element on the page with an ID of start time, and then when you've found it, go and call the val method to set the value of this element and set it to now. So if we try that, refresh it on the page, it works exactly the same as before. Now just to prove that it's working and it's not a trick, I'll change the text and we'll go and refresh it, and there we have it. So we've now got a very short piece of jQuery code.